Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Well, if you're watching this right now, you might be like, Rachel, why are you tweeting possibly from Dove Valley or Broncos Park, I should say, the new name? And you're not wrong, because right now we are pre-recording our episode because guess what? It is Broncos minicamp for the next 3 days. We are stoked about it because we're finally going to see all three of the quarterbacks and hopefully back-to-back days with the ones to be able to get a little vibe on that. But besides the quarterbacks, what is the biggest storylines that people need to be paying attention to? We will, of course, have all of your updates on Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson. Don't worry about that. But what else should Bronco fans be wanting to pay attention to? And to talk about that, we have the one and only Andrew Mason. Hello, my friend.
How are you?
Good.
It's going to be good to be out at BPPBCS.
Mace, your glasses are fogging up. We were just talking about it. And I'm like, dang, dude.
I don't get this. Now, it was mentioned to me that maybe I'm wearing them too close to my eyes, perhaps. But the thing is, if I set them down here,
then they feel too low.
They do. And also it probably shows up. My eyes aren't in the center of the glasses, are they?
Fair, no.
So it's like, yeah, I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do, just like the Broncos don't know what to do at quarterback. Here we are. Okay, I want to get into it, though, because, of course, let's talk quarterback real quick, because I know that's what everybody really cares about. So hit me with it. What's the one thing you're really paying attention to between all three QBs to tell you who's winning this race?
I'd like to see how Jarrett Stidham is looking with the ones, presuming that each quarterback gets a day as the rotation has been to this point. I'd like to see Stidham with the ones. That's the one thing we have not seen so far. Want to see continued progress from Bo Nix. And look, so far we've seen Zach Wilson 3 days. The 3 days we've seen him, he's been third, not in the depth chart in terms of how they're using him, because we saw Zach Wilson with the ones last week. He's been third in terms of the quality of play.
Just overall.
So at what point do you say, all right, let's consolidate this thing down to a two-way competition and get Bo Nix more reps? Now, if Zach Wilson goes out there, tears it up this week, then who the heck knows what you're going to have going to training camp. But I'm curious to see if the rotation continues through this week, or if they used the demarcation between OTAs and mandatory minicamp as the point to say, all right, we're changing the dynamic a little bit.
It's going to be interesting just to see. And I hope that that is what we are going to see, is one quarterback every single day. Of course, you never know what Sean Payton's going to do. I have a feeling that that is what it's going to be, is a different QB every single day. Because when he talks about the situation, it feels like we're going to go through this 3 quarterback rotation through training camp. And I feel like that's frustrating. And I actually do think it's setting the Broncos back just a little bit.
Unless you're planning to play all 3 this season.
Like how can you even do that? How can you do that to your wide receivers and your running backs?
It's not ideal, but maybe you are girding yourself for a future where you see all of them at some point in the season. I don't think Sean Payton's thinking that.
This is the biggest what if. What if the Broncos play 3 quarterbacks this year?
Well, I mean, they played, if you count Kendall Hinton, they played 4 in 2020. How'd that season go?
Exactly.
Not well. It's not something you want. That's why if you can job, that's probably the way to go. So you get them each more reps. I think they'll do that, and then it may end up looking very much like the 2021 Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock 50-50. But my goodness, if they're still rotating him day by day, 3 quarterbacks in training camp, I may have to downgrade that 7-10 prediction that I had. That's not a prescription for generating continuity and maximizing success this year.
You are screwing over your running backs, your quarterbacks, your tight ends, because the smallest of details when you are throwing different things to all of these guys or handing off, that changes. That's why you have to be able to get down to 2 quarterbacks by the time training camp hits.
Ideally.
You have to. There's no reason to have 3 of them in the mix, especially when Mace, you and I have been out there for 3 weeks, even though it's just one day, and we know that there is a clear 2 quarterbacks who are above the other.
Unless the sample size that includes what we don't see has Zach Wilson playing better. That's the mystery.
Yeah, but so what? He's just stinking it up in front of the media?
Yeah.
Sean Payton goes up to him and he's like, hey, I need you to really suck.
Which doesn't bode well for doing your best when there are 76,000 people in the stands. If you're doing well when there's no one around, but then you bring about 4 dozen of us chuckleheads in there and he struggles, then that doesn't augur well for what's going to come, does it?
No, it's terrible. I'm frustrated with it.
Yeah.
I really hope that they do just narrow it down to 2 and we call it a day right there. But of course, besides Jarrett Stidham, 2 new QBs. So.
What if they narrow it down to 2, but it's Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson, then they decide to do redshirt year on Bo Nix?
Ooh, how do I feel about that?
I would be a little concerned about that. And I would say also,
what a great question.
I would be wondering what's happening in the practices that we haven't seen, because while Bo Nix is far from perfect in terms of pocket presence, feel for the pass rush, decision making, ability to do subtle things like manipulate the safeties and get things adjusted pre-snap, I'd say he's ahead of where I have seen other Broncos rookies, going all the way back to Jay Cutler. But I think of seeing Tim Tebow during offseason work in 2010, Paxton Lynch 2016, Drew Lock 2019. Where Bo Nix is now is ahead of those other quarterbacks. And I know with the exception of Jay Cutler, who became a pretty solid starter in the league for a while, I'm not setting the bar really high, but Bo Nix is at a more advanced level in doing those things, which is why as I watch the quarterbacks, personally, I get more comfortable with the idea of Bo Nix being the week 1 starter, even though he hasn't had like the wow moments. He's doing a lot of the little things that quarterbacks have to do in order to succeed in the NFL.
Okay, so hit me with it, because I obviously wasn't covering the teams quite yet. What is it about Bo Nix that he's one step above? You're naming some big names. Jay Cutler, even though some people aren't fans of Tim Tebow, like still a name that a lot of people recognize.
Comfort running the offense, presence pre-snap, ability to make adjustments pre-snap. It's
interesting.
Clear to me he's operating on a higher level than those other rookies that I saw come through here at a similar point.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty high regards coming from you, Mace.
But it's not surprising. That's his, Jay Cutler back in 2006 had the howitzer, right?
Yep.
And Drew Lock had a pretty good arm as well. Bo Nix isn't going to wow you with arm strength. It's going to come with process, decision making, running the offense. So one of the things I watch, there was one, I think it was last week, and I have the binoculars up, and I put the binoculars up so I can see Bo Nix's eyes, and so I can see him kind of manipulate the safeties a little bit. Yeah, it's.
Wow.
Well,
I need to step up my game.
I'm not standing that far away, so you put the binoculars in. It's really kind of getting up close, and you can actually kind of see him. You can see him trying to move the safeties. He's trying to, you can see him going through his progressions really quick. The mental process there appears to be pretty strong from my observation.
Those extra years in college definitely helped a little.
They should, and that's the other thing with Nix is his strengths are going to be in terms of what he does up here and what he does in terms of process and in terms of processing. I'm not just talking about processing in terms of reacting to the defense post snap, but I'm talking about processing what you see pre-snap, diagnosing, and then making an adjustment. That's where he looks to be ahead of most rookies that I've seen.
Fascinating. The show has quickly turned into the 3 biggest storylines we need to do on Bo Nix, which Mace, to be honest, to be completely fair, he did tell me that was going to be it, because that's what people care about. So I totally hear.
Oh, our orange and blue today numbers, Rachel. I was going through them over the weekend. They're great, but there's a definite Bo Nix bump.
Well,
when you put Bo Nix in the title, it gets more clicks.
Fair enough.
So I know there are people who are saying, Oh, another Bo Nix show.
The numbers don't lie,
As Jimmy
folks.
Connors would say, giving the people what they want.
Okay, so then let's stick with it. 3 biggest storylines on Bo Nix. I feel like we've hit 2 of them.
Okay.
What's the third?
On the quarterbacks, or just Bo Nix specifically?
Let's just go Bo Nix.
Cohesion with the receivers, particularly Courtland Sutton. There we go.
I was wondering how long it was going to take to bring him up.
Courtland Sutton being out there, I want to see what their timing looks like. And again, I don't expect it to be great, but what does it look like on day 3 compared to day 1? I want to see
this is the first time that we know of that they've worked out together.
I want to see the 2 of them working together. I want to see, very similar to how when you go down to the Senior Bowl, I'm always looking to see where the player is on day 3 compared to day 1, because they're throwing all those guys together. They never practiced before. Same thing with Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton. Haven't practiced together before. How does it look going from the first day to the third day? Because last year we saw one of the issues in Jarrett Stidham's second start. He got Courtland Sutton back from the concussion that he had on Christmas Eve. The timing between Jarrett Stidham and Courtland Sutton was not there at all. And it was, aside from the day that he got concussed against New England, it was Court's worst game of the season. So do we get a sense that they're on the same page? And also, what kind of routes are they going to run with Courtland Sutton and Bo Nix? Because we know with Russell Wilson, it was a lot of 9-ball stuff.
Yeah.
And certainly, you're talking
thrilling
about,
stuff.
You're getting to the 7, 8, 9 part of the route tree. Well, you're going more for, with Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton, are you getting him involved more on slants and crosses and things like that? And certainly, if you're going and making the comparison to Sean Payton and the New Orleans offense, Courtland Sutton has the body type to be a slant god.
Yes.
But it's not something he's done extensively in the Broncos offense. But he's got the body type and he can catch the ball. He's a good receiver. So
will they utilize him that way?
Yeah. Does Courtland Sutton's path to success this year look different? And do they want him to adapt? And if they want him to, how does he adapt?
It's going to be interesting because, again, I think seeing it day 1 to day 3, but will we actually see that, Mace? Because it's probably going to be a rotation of the 3 quarterbacks.
And not only that, they've been even moving the receivers around as well. Remember the big play for Jarrett Stidham to Marvin Mims Jr. that we saw a couple of weeks back?
Yep.
That was with the 2s and against the 2s. So Sean Payton keeps saying, don't read too much into the rotations. Because...
Sorry, Sean, it's hard not to.
It's hard. Well, it's hard not to, but he and the coaching staff are trying to get a feel for what sort of hand they have with this roster. Because at wide receiver, for example, you've got a lot of guys who are pretty closely packed together, some who could rise. Like you have Josh Reynolds and you have Marvin Mims Jr., Tim Patrick trying to come back from injury. Now you're throwing Courtland Sutton in there. Devon Vele's had some flashes. Troy Franklin's had some flashes. Brandon Johnson coming back. Lil Jordan Humphrey coming back. Jalen Virgil coming back. I just rattled off 9 names that a lot of Broncos fans know. In the case of Jalen Virgil, Brandon Johnson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, these are guys that have made some splash plays for the Broncos in the last couple of years. Not all of them are making the team.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So maybe the Broncos are getting an upgrade at wide receiver. Like, let's be real. I've been really harsh. I've been really critical of it. But we have seen some really good flashes from some of these players. Not everyone is going to make this roster.
Yeah.
Now maybe they are going to be I say this lightly, a better team than they were last year.
The question is there a true alpha in the group? Now, Courtland Sutton has been the wide receiver 1, but aside
he's not
from
alpha though.
Yeah. And aside from the touchdown number last year, the production has not been wide receiver 1 level.
Bingo.
Okay. The way I look at his contract, which is, I believe, 22nd in average annual value among wide receivers now after some of the new deals this offseason, he's not outplaying it. He's not getting ripped off.
The Broncos should not extend Courtland Sutton. I'm sorry.
It's actually that contract's actually for a for a second contract for a wide receiver relative to his production. It's not like Sean Payton when I say relative to.
Yeah.
There's always coach speak that rubs off on me. Like I still use John Fox-isms to this day. I still use some Mike Shanahan-isms too.
It's the pauses that I try for Sean Payton. I'm like, come on, coach. You can get it out. You can do it.
I don't mind the pauses because it means he's thinking about it.
Fair.
Like he's putting the one thing I can say for Sean Payton is he puts thought into what his response is, and the pauses reflect that.
But at the exact same time, Mace, that can also mean he's trying to think of an answer that's not 100% truthful.
An answer that doesn't tell you everything.
I'd rather him just word vomit to us sometimes.
It's truthful, but not the entire truth.
Word vomit like you've had too many lattes, Sean. That's what I need out of you.
That's the word, the word salad sometimes. Like,
oh yeah,
he can be hard to transcribe.
Oh, his pot.
But here's what I like. Like, he's been going really long in his press conferences.
He's been so happy the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, like he went 32 minutes last week. And the thing is, if he's willing to keep going, that's where I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to go through the roster here, because coming up on Orange and Blue today in July, we've got position previews heading into camp. So that's where I'm going to ask him, hey, how's JL Skinner looking?
Yep.
Hey, what about the, how does the new kickoff rule impact roster construction? That's, you start getting some stuff. And I was going through a lot of the things that we got from the last few weeks. I'm like, we really got a lot because he gave the time for us to dive deep. And I'm hopeful that he does again this week, because I've got more.
That's the thing. Okay. So I need to give Mace all the credit in the world right now because he does such a good job. But here I am. I cannot stand in the same spot for like more than 20 minutes. Like I start to get really like antsy and I'm like, I need to move around. And when you're doing that press conference for so long, like I start to get antsy and I'm like, when is this going to end? Like I need to be able to move.
And then, much to your consternation, I ask more.
Yeah. And then Mace is asking more. And I'm like, I'm glad he's asking these questions, but like, I need to walk to the other side of the building real quick. And then I know the players are going to come out. I actually got a comment the other day and they were like, I'll give you credit, Rachel. Like standing around is actually really hard. And it can be because right now we also have to take time between coaches and then the players lift and then we would get the players to come out.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot of standing around and they were like, I'll actually give it to you because I know it is hard to stand around. And I'm like, it is, but it's also very easy to stand around and I'm just complaining.
Especially when it's hot out there.
It's going to be 96 on Thursday.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Buckle up, Mace.
Are we sure that's not field day weather?
Yeah. Please. 96 degrees.
Whew.
Buckle up. Bring the hats.
Move.
Bucket hats.
The bucket
again.
hats. Oh, yes. I've got bucket hats.
Round 2. Maybe I will pull out the bucket hat. We'll take a picture on Thursday.
Maybe on Thursday, everybody should wear a bucket hat.
Right? Throw it back. I need to find those
bucket hats and sunglasses.
We need to do something because 96 is going to be toasty. Mace, are you excited for a mini camp? Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready to see what this team has. I mean, beyond quarterback too, I want to see the number 2 corner. We've seen Levi Wallace, Damari Mathis, Riley Moss, even Jaquan McMillan getting moved over there. So I think I want to see more of that.
Yep.
I also want to see, and we haven't seen this since rookie minicamp, I want to see some kickoff drills. Because I really want to start seeing what this is going to look like.
Same. I actually am really excited to see what it's going to. And Sean Payton has talked almost every single week about it and how it's a lot like baseball, where it's going to be a fly ball and you're going to watch it get caught, and then you're going to snap your head to whoever's going to be receiving, yada yada, the whole thing.
And you're looking at different body types on players too, because if you're not looking for straight up speed as just guys sprinting their rear ends from the 35-yard line down inside the 20. Yeah. Are you going with bigger guys? Maybe to even see an offensive lineman as part of coverage, one of your more nimble backup O-linemen, or you're talking about, you said linebackers. Do you go heavy at linebacker and lighter at corner?
Yeah.
In terms of the back end of the roster, do you go heavier at tight end, lighter at wide receiver? Does it come down to Nate Adkins being on the team at the expense of a 6th wide receiver? these are things that are legitimate possibilities right now.
And it's going to be so much fun. Great storyline to end it on right there. Because yes, that is also something. And I think Broncos country should also be excited about this. We will have plenty of good stuff. Denversports.com. I know Mace is going to have good stuff over on the website. Orange and Blue Today with Cecil Lammy as well. So make sure you tune in. And then right back here at Coffee Break, Denver Sports Daily. We got everything you need here in the Mile High City. We will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everybody.